Oh, what is going on, people? I'm gonna try and keep the energy up today, but I am off the back of a show, and it was a catastrophe. Maybe I'll talk about that. Well, I mean, it wasn't a catastrophe. The show was good. It was just a pain in the ass. The venue was not a theater, so there were no local hands to help us load out and prepare stuff. I literally spent all of yesterday trying to figure out how to get the lighting arrangement to work, because I could only place the trees in 2 positions and none of the lights were effective from that range. I kept having to move them and try different arrangements out. So that's what I spent all day yesterday doing, and then I spent about 3 hours yesterday morning doing that, and then we did a bunch of rehearsals before the show, and then loading out. Again, there was no loading ramp, so we had to take everything up the truck ramp. And the trucks were loaded incorrectly from whatever, so we had to take everything out and then put everything back in. So I'm really tired, but I'll try and keep up the energy if I can. Today we're doing programming and scripting, which I know is boring, but I'll try to talk about interesting stuff. So the ideology here, the philosophy, because as you know, I'm all up in that philosophy stuff right now. Also, if you see me writing stupid shit like a function that returns none, just ignore that. I haven't programmed in Lua in ages, so just I fix everything. Don't worry about that. But I've been kind of inspired. For those who, well, I guess nobody is aware. Maybe some people are. I program a lot outside of Roblox, particularly in like Rust. So I do a lot of programming there, a lot of systems programming, and so I have like all of these different like ideas and whatnot for how I want to structure this. And really the most important part is just making it easy and understandable. So the structure that's in there now is actually going to change a little bit. Like, I end up moving stuff around a bunch throughout this episode. But, I mean, eventually we get there. So, that's good. Something I wanted to do is kind of centralize like the error handling stuff and the data stuff. So like in Rust is a very popular programming architecture is data oriented whatever, so like data oriented game design or data oriented GUI development. So I kind of wanted to apply that here a little bit. It's not really applied in the same way that you would in Rust, because you can't really do that in Lua, but I famously hate Lua object-oriented programming, which is what all the professional Roblox devs use. I can find my way around it. Trust me. Oh my god, I fucking hate it so much. So I'm not gonna do it. It's a pain in the ass, and I'm just not familiar enough with it either. Even if I was familiar with it, I still wouldn't want to do it. So let's just clear the air real quick. I'm not doing it. So I will be doing things like object-oriented programming. Like, I use a bunch of dictionaries, but none of them are like actual objects or anything like that, or like quote-unquote objects. Like, there's no meta table use here. So fight me about it or something, I don't care. But I think I've reached a pretty good spot with it, so it should be able to help me like develop the programming and stuff a lot easier, which is good. So I can, get things out a lot faster, and there's less programming technical debt. That was a big thing on the last one, was that like I would just like make one thing and then I'd have to stop and pause or do something else, and then it would end up like screwing everything up because there would just be a script that is temporary and not being used, and I'm tired of that. I'm sick of that, so no more of that. And here's one of my genius ideas, is the errors module. The thing about debugging in Lua is that half of it is syntax errors, because the Roblox like programming assistants like the linter and the whatever other nonsense you want to call for, like the type system that is whatever the fuck it's called. I don't remember the name for it, but when you hover over a function and it tells you the parameter types and its return type, the shit like that is really bad by default. I think I can get VS Code to work with that, but honestly I'm just too lazy to set that up. And I don't want it to fuck with my other VS Code stuff, so I just keep it here in the game because it's easier for me. But like, so half of Roblox debugging is just trying shit over and over again until you eventually figure out where you fucked up. And that's where the main problem comes in. But there's also a lot of other things that could cause errors, especially when it comes to like data store stuff and all that crap. So I kind of want to have like a centralized way to track and store all this stuff. I have one of these called an error stack. So if you look to the right, the organization is a little off, but the names are the same. So like there's a thing called data model, which eventually gets changed to data module. But that has a thing in it called errors, and it stores all of the errors that the game has like experienced. So I'm probably going to get rid of that because it's not very useful, and just raise exceptions as they happen. And then now that I think about it, I also need to go in and add like where it occurred, if it occurred on the client or... Well, actually, never mind, I already did that. That's one of the genius things about this, is that it'll tell you where the error happened. So whenever I create an error, I'll put like a photo of it on screen, but like it'll tell you where the location of it was because I write it in there whenever I create the error. Oh yeah, like on screen right now, errors.throw error game client game event on client event. So it tells you where you happened, what script it happened in, and then what function it happened in, which is super helpful. And then they're all raised in the same format and stuff, so that's really awesome, and it's just makes my life so much easier. The next epiphany that I had was function maps. So, or at least that's what I've called it. I mean, it's a dictionary. It's a map between a name and then a function, and so I call it a function map. And I'm just using these on game server and game client. I realize now that game server is going to need some other kind of protection, because I thought of this randomly while rummaging through my garage looking for a flashlight when the power was out, but I genuinely don't know what prompted this, but that's not secure. If the client can just request something and then the server does it, I need to find some way to like authenticate stuff when it comes to like finances and data store and whatever. So I definitely need to do that. Maybe I'll just put those under like a separate event or something, but that's kind of the idea there. So I will have to fix that, but basically I can just like say fire this event, so I can put everything under one event, and then instead of doing an if-else statement, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner, but I used to just do an if-else statement. So I'd pass a parameter with the function name and be like, if the function name is change lighting, then change lighting, else if the function name is start car, then start car, which is stupid. It's so stupid. So now I have all of the functions in a table. That's what it's actually called in Lua. It's called a table. I have them all in a table, and then each one of those functions has a string, which is like its name, and so I just say do this thing. I just call the function and then say do this, and then it does it automatically. It's really good. It's working really well so far, so I'm very pleased with that. But that's enough lame, boring nonsense. Lame, boring program nonsense. Let's go ahead and get into like actually interesting stuff that people care about. So the ideology here, I know I already went over the ideology, but the second ideology is that I just want to get the base stuff done immediately, and and just get like the fundamentals for the game working, because it's something that I didn't do on the last one, and it became a problem. Like, I remember I literally have a Google Sheet with all of the scripts in the game, and like when they were updated and what they do and which version of the framework game they're in, because we had two, actually we had three. There was a programming one, there was a vehicles one, a second programming one, and a framework game, all with like mismatched scripts. Oh my god, I almost dropped myself having to deal with that. So, no more of that. I'm just putting it in the main game now, and I'm just gonna get the heavy work, the big scripting stuff out of the way, so that I can just have that stuff done and not have to worry about it. And so that'll be things like the financial system and the player data stores, and things like car purchasing and spawning, and perchance some main UI stuff. And speaking of UI, one of the other things I wanted to do is maybe look into creating a framework for Rockhaven, because there are lots of like game frame or UI frameworks in Lua, but I kind of want to do my own thing, and it might be worth making that. One of the problems with the UI in the last game was that everything was outdated. So like some things would be this version, and then some things would be this version, and they wouldn't communicate properly with each other, and they didn't follow the same architecture, which is a problem that I can resolve with the UI framework instead. And I'm not entirely sure what that's gonna look like, but I think I have an idea on how I want to do that. And so I guess I'm gonna try it out and see if I can make it work, and hopefully it will look good and make developing UI way easier. At this point in the code, I'm reorganizing everything. This is the actual organization. If you look over to the right in the Explorer, I have modules in both replicated storage and server script storage. So I have server modules and client modules, and so whenever I put them in a scripts, I just do like C errors module for like client errors module, or I do S data module for server data module, and that is another thing that makes my life so much easier. And then I also have the time handler as well under game server, so there's a couple scripts that just run indefinitely. I think there's one for the vehicles as well, and you can see me here working on the lighting script. So this is kind of where like the data module thing comes in. You can see me looking around in the this is dev framework. This is like the big one that has all the code in it. And looking back at this, I can't help but wonder what the fuck I was doing. It's so outdated and trash, but I've updated it now and it looks good. So basically the time will just cycle forever, and I have an attribute under the script for the time that it takes for 1 minute to go by in game, so I can just easily just boop, change that, which is super awesome. And it updates the data module, which is like the central data model that has all of the game information on it. So it updates the game time, which means all the clients can listen along and set up their atmospheric and lighting conditions according to the time, which is super awesome. So I can get that dynamic lighting system going. But that's about it here. That is more or less everything that I've done. So I will see you guys in the next video. We're going to be building again instead of this boring shit. So yeah, I think we're doing a townhouse or a row house or something like that. So it should look pretty good. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in episode 4.